Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special edition of the Saturday night stream for LFC Transfer Room. It's a Saturday night club. I'm joined with some current friends who have joined me over the past few weeks in Stitches and Colin, and a very old friend in Rigo, my old podcast buddy. I'm very thrilled to have Rigo on with me today. I was quite excited when I saw your name, buddy. So you can also tell who the Americans are because they're very wrapped up warm, Colin and Rigo, in your hats and your hoodies. Stitches and I just chilling in this English weather. It's not too bad yet, is it? I'm sure we'll get it around January, February time. But yeah, what a stream we've got. We are pure football tonight. So for everybody who's watching, we are just talking about football. We're not talking about contracts. We're not talking about transfers because it is the biggest game of the season so far as Liverpool are reeling after that amazing win against Real Madrid. Probably the best performance I've seen under Arne Slot's Liverpool. It might seem unlikely, but it's a stark fact that San Marino have more wins this month than Manchester City. So we'll just let that settle. And hopefully they'll remain with more wins than Manchester City this month as well. So without any further ado, Rigo, how are you, buddy? And how are things over the pond?
Doing great, Richie. As aforementioned, we used to be podcast partners, so it's great to be back on with you on the stream. Colin, I see him frequently over at the Star Stripes and Anfield nights stream on Tuesday nights, and Stitch's first time with you, so great to be on. Doing very, very well. I can't complain about anything footballing wise. We're in first place in both of the big major tournaments or competitions that we're aiming to win, and besides Kanate's injury, everything's looking roses, so very happy.
Yeah, we'll break down that Kanate injuries when we look in the defence a little bit more. Also, by the way, I have to say, whoever thought of Stars, Stripes and Anfield Knights, what an absolute dream of a name. That's a fantastic name. I think it's brilliant. Stitches, you and I now have been on Saturday nights for quite a while together. So it's good always to have your company. And I hope all is well with you. It's been 34 days since Premier League champions Manchester City last tasted victory in any competition, Stitches. So I'm going to ask you a little bit later whether you think that changes or not. But how are you feeling?
Edgy is the word. One side of my brain is so supremely confident after what I saw against Real Madrid, which is, par for the course in terms of what I expected from an Arne Slot team in terms of the progression. I expected that as we get into Christmas, as we start getting into December, you're going to start seeing some of the disciplines, some of the patterns of play bedding in. You're going to see the players understanding his way, his approach a little bit more. And I felt like it came together perfectly against Real Madrid. And actually the timing of that game was great because it wasn't the game after international break. It was the game after international break. And traditionally, we always struggle after international break, even though we get pretty good results. I think statistically, we've had the most points after international break in the league bar one team. I don't know who that is, so don't ask me, but we're second, which shows that, that's great. But it always leaves me feeling a bit worried after international break. So having that Real Madrid game, which is, on paper, a very difficult game for anyone, despite what some rival fans from maybe Anfield, maybe the Arsenal TV may think in regards to, their victory being supreme to us, which is a complete headcon. Can't imagine how beating, a Portuguese team trumps beating Real Madrid, but never mind. I digress. The point being that was a good kind of pre-game into going into this City game. And I'm throwing form out of the window. I'm forgetting everything that's gone on. I think part of the issue with City against Tottenham was that he had some players that were on the verge of returning, but I think he took a gamble. He took a gamble in terms of picking a slightly weaker squad in order to give these players more time to prepare for this game. So I don't expect to see the same City that Tottenham saw. I expect to see a City that's closer to what we would expect, but I also expect that we will be fully prepared for that. I think Slot's not going to take anything for granted. I think it's a watershed moment. It's such a pivotal moment in the league in terms of where things go. win, and we're 11 points clear of them, and more importantly, maintaining our gap between us and Arsenal, and lose, and it kind of goes down to 5 points between us and Arsenal, which it's a good lead. It's not like I think they're not going to drop points, but it makes us look over our shoulder that little bit more, which I don't really want us doing. I want step on their necks now. Keep that gap going into this flurry of games, because Arsenal are looking very good. However, can they do that back to back to back to back? Games are going to come thick and fast. It's the period where teams can create a real big gap or get reeled back, and I just want us to keep the momentum going. It's a big shame that Konate's missing, but I trust Gomez or Kwanzaa to come in and do the business. So to go back to your original question, how do I feel? I feel confident, but I've got that nervous energy the night before a big game. And that's how I feel right now, but I'm quietly confident.
Colin, you mentioned off air actually that you think your furnace might be broken, so it's a little bit icy there. Speaking about ice, Arne Slot is a man who is as cool as ice, and nothing seems to faze him so far. I know he's not particularly had too much, negativity coming his way, obviously with the start that he's had for Liverpool. But again, this doesn't happen just by accident. This is still a Jurgen Klopp team. Let's not forget, the only player he's actually brought in is Chiesa, who's only featured, I think, for about 10, 15 minutes, 20 at tops. So again, this is really a Jurgen Klopp team. How impressed have you been with the players such as Gravenberch and Jones, who didn't look like Klopp players, but now they're definitely slot players? Do you think the performance against Madrid, and obviously we will get onto the game tomorrow, but do you think that performance against Madrid epitomised everything that Slot had been working on and what Slot had been doing?
Yeah, absolutely, I do. If anybody sees in the comments, I am bundled up. It's like I was checking the weather. It feels like -10°C outside here in Pittsburgh. It's quite cold. And we came back home from seeing family, and I think the furnace is broken because it's blowing air, but it's not hot. So much like that, Arne Slot is an ice cold man. I think his kind of approach to maybe refining or fine tuning some of the inefficiencies in the team has been really admirable. It's something that I think, kind of the fresh eyes and a fresh approach has been really important for this team, and kind of reviving not fully reviving some of these players, but giving them a new lease. Gravenberch is the prime example here, with just tweaking the positioning and certainly instilling a belief in him to do it has allowed him to absolutely flourish. So as I was watching the Real Madrid game, and I was saying in the group, I haven't felt so alive watching a Liverpool game in a while now, because that performance I thought across the board was just fantastic. But as I was continuing to watch, all I was thinking of was, wow, I can't wait to see this midfield play City. Because after watching the City game on last weekend, I thought, their biggest weaknesses were the midfield. I don't think that they could get the job done. And I certainly don't think that they're going to be able to quite get the job done against the midfield three that we've been putting out if they're playing anywhere near the level that they have been. So definitely excited. The nervous excitement. Like I'm ready to watch this game. I'm ready to see it unfold.
Let's talk then about tomorrow, and because there's four of us on, we're not all going to take it in turns, go around saying what we think, our opinions. So please do feel to jump in. We've obviously got the goalkeeping situation that Rigo's going to get down to in a moment. Then obviously we've got the defence, the midfield, the attack, our predictions, and so on. So please do feel free to jump in on each other. I'm sure that none of us will have a problem with it. So please do feel free to jump in. And everyone in the comments, there's nearly 2,000 of you joining us on this Saturday night stream. So thank you very, very much for joining us. I do want to talk about, before we even get to the defence, really, it's the goalkeeping situation, because we saw Alisson Becker watching on like a proud dad in the stands when Guivan Kelleher denied Kylian Mbappe. A lot of people said it was a bad penalty, but listen, he had to save at the end of the day. A bad penalty is a Mo Salah penalty where you kick the floor before you kick the ball and it hits the post and goes wide. If a penalty is on target, you've still got a chance of scoring it because the goalkeeper doesn't go that way. So, you know, I thought Kelleher played phenomenally again. And for me, I think Kelleher has to start. I think Alisson's the best goalkeeper in the world, but you just don't drop somebody on Kelleher's form. 2 penalty saves now back to back. First time I think that's happened in 115 years for Liverpool. So, you know, hopefully there's not a third. Hopefully Robbo doesn't dive in like he has done the past 2 weeks. But anyway, let's get goalkeeping situation. Alisson, Kelleher. It's a tricky one, isn't it, Rigo?
I wouldn't. Typically, yes, but I wouldn't give Alisson his first run out after such a lengthy period in recovery. Man City. I'd still let Kelleher take it. He's been absolutely amazing since Alisson went down. Just making Nottingham Forest look like fools with that offer they did towards the end of the transfer season this summer. Basically, Matt Turner and a box of peanuts for Kelleher. So yeah, he's been absolutely awesome, and I think he deserves this big matchup. There'll be another one against City later on in the season. Hopefully, Alisson will be fit and healthy for that. But I let Kelleher rock for this one before tossing Alisson back in.
And did you know that Guivan Kelleher has actually only lost 1 of his 21 Premier League games, and that was a 1-0 defeat against Brighton at Anfield in February, and that was actually in his second game. So he's on quite a good run really for Liverpool. And you know, I think for me, where City do look like they're struggling in terms of scoring goals, you know, I'd have Kelleher in there, you know, as well. Hopefully, you know, again, like I say, not conceding goals, not having to save penalties. But he must be thinking, or Mamardashvili must be thinking, I'm going to Anfield to potentially be a third choice goalkeeper, because at the minute, Kelleher keeps everybody in the world out for me. So, yeah, it's certainly an interesting one. Stitches and Colin, do you have anything to add? You're muted, by the way.
My favorite trick has to be done at least once on a podcast.
Yeah. Oh, always do it. I do too.
Yeah. Listen, I keep hopping on one side of the fence, on another side of the fence on this goalkeeping situation. I mean, look, first of all, let's have it clear. We are extremely blessed to have 2 such quality goalkeepers. Yeah, and I absolutely love that. I mean, coming from Mignolet to Karius, man, listen, I'm so happy. My take on this is that I think it's interesting that Slot has pinned his flag to the mast and said that Alisson is going to be number 1, because most managers avoid that. They tend to avoid that, but he's made that clear, and I think part of the reason he's made that clear is that Kelleher is made it clear that he wants to move on at the end of the season. So therefore, you're not going to lose Kelleher and then disenfranchise your veteran goalkeeper at the same time. We have Mamardashvili coming in. So, you know, Alisson is number 1. However, I'm completely on board with Rigo's way of thinking on this. It's too big a game to cause that kind of disruption to bring Alisson back for that game. I just think we give the game to Kelleher. We have a cup game coming up, and then a decision is taken at that point whether to get some minutes in on Alisson. Ali, you know, I think we have some recency bias as human beings, which is that, you know, the latest flavor is Kelleher. We've seen him, you know, do amazingly since Alisson's been on the medical bench. And that gives us the mindset that, you know, it almost makes you forget how amazing Alisson is because you've been watching Kelleher do so well. But Ali is, in my opinion, the best goalkeeper in the world. And you can't keep the best goalkeeper in the world on the bench. It just sounds crazy. It's amazing that Kelleher's doing what he's done, and you know what? Ultimate respect to him. And I think that we have no qualms giving him games if we want to rest Ali, which I think we should manage his minutes. going forward, given how much he keeps breaking down. So that means more minutes for Kelleher. But and Ali stays number one. But for the game tomorrow, has to be Kelleher. I think just to keep that continuity. I mean, we've already lost Konate out of that defensive structure. You just don't want to. You don't want to make wholesale changes. You make a change because you have to, but not wholesale for that game. Well, that's my way of thinking anyway.
Yeah, I agree. And there's also no harm in Kelleher playing minutes and resting Ali, and obviously Kelleher's price at the moment is just going up and up and up. So if he wants to leave in the summer, as Rigo said, it's going to take a lot more than a box of peanuts and Matt Ryan for him to go out through the Anfield exits. Speaking about the defence, Colin, comparing this season to last season, the first 12 games, Liverpool last season had faced 154 shots. This season, they faced 117. So they faced 37 fewer shots. They've conceded 2 less goals. And their expected goals against is at 3.9, as in like minus 3.9. So that's a big shift in terms of that defense. Now, we know slot system is far more possession based. You could say it is more defensive minded. It isn't. And Jurgen just ended up saying he doesn't play heavy metal football anymore. He didn't like the gang pressing style when he first came in. He said that he moved away from that. But we are seeing this defense now be really confident. I with that Madrid game, as soon as it went to 2-0, I was like, okay, job's done. Now, with Jurgen, perhaps I was thinking this could end up 5-4 still, So I think Liverpool fans feel a little bit more confident. I think less pacemakers have been fitted around Merseyside, and, we do feel a bit more confident. Speaking about our defence, though, with Ibu being out, it was a bit of a topsy-turvy week, wasn't it? Or a couple of days, because apparently it wasn't very bad. And then it was bad, then it wasn't very bad, and now it's 6 to 8 weeks, which in my eyes is pretty bad. I know it could have been a lot worse, obviously being a knee injury. He's out. Who comes in? And also Conor Bradley, who I thought had a phenomenal match. He's been so good, and another one who has just really stepped up to the mark. He's now gone down with a hamstring as well. You would expect Trent to come in, but there are a couple more options. Who would you expect to see in that back line for Liverpool tomorrow?
Yeah, I think Rigo was pointing it out in the comments. I do expect to see Gomez. I think Gomez will be the one to come in at center back. I think Arshad actually likes Gomez better at center back than he does at right or left back. Which is, it's certainly preference. I have no problems with Gomez coming in. I think, his closeness to Van Dijk is always an asset. I think he's a good player. He just hasn't had the minutes that probably he would want, or certainly in the minutes that we've had in the past. But I'm totally confident in him coming in and playing this game. I think Trent obviously will get the go at right back. I would expect that more so than Gomez at right back and Kwanzaa at center back. I think that is a little, given their minutes overall, I think that's a bit riskier. And if at any point you feel like Trent can't go the whole time, then you can shift to that. But I feel like you probably want to be playing Trent as much as possible.
And it's just the fitness, isn't it? Like, he didn't come on. It was, he didn't come on when Bradley went down. Again, it feels a bit like City, like what Stitch was saying. Is it too early to play him? You could go Gomez left back and Kwanzaa at centre back, but again, that's perhaps risky. Kwanzaa going up against Haaland. Now, you know that you'd expect Virgil to step in there, but Haaland's always going to want to run at not Virgil van Dijk, anyone but Virgil van Dijk, before he gets the Mbappe landing on your head tombstone treatment. So it's going to be. I think it's a really interesting one. What about the left back, Colin? Because again, listen, I love the Flying Scotsman. I think Robbo's been a sensational servant for Liverpool, but he has looked over the past couple of games, especially with the 2 pens, although one of them definitely wasn't a penalty, it was outside the box. Alas, didn't matter in the end. Where's your head at really with that left back position?
Yeah, and Paul, Paul asking in the comments, does Robbo have the 90? I think that's a real concern. I think that's a real serious question. I think that raises a lot more questions about who would play there if something happens, or if his legs are really gone, at 65 minutes, given the games. Like, what do we do with that situation? Because Tsimikas is out, correct? I don't think he's going to even be in the squad, correct? He wasn't on the midfield. I think he's still dealing with injury. So, I mean, it just seems like it would be a real jump to go Gomez at left back, Van Dijk, Kwanzaa, and Trent. That seems like too many wholesale changes for this game. I could see it more, at the midweek. Rob is going to need a blow sometime. Like he's going to have to rest. We've outlined, I think, in the past and pretty regularly, that the way to continue to get good performances out of players who are getting older is not to play them constantly, is not to just run the legs into the ground. It is to make sure that their minutes are being watched. We saw it with Henderson. We saw it with Fabinho. What happens if not? So Robertson being in the position where he sort of has to be playing is a concern. It's a concern short term, because who might be taking the position if not, but it's a concern long term as well. If you want to try to get the best performances out of him for the rest of this year, and as well the rest of this year, and as well the rest of maybe, let's say, next season as well, you want to try to give him as much time as possible to not be playing, rather.
And also, it's one of those that go on, Stitches. You go.
I was just going to say, look, this defensive thing, just to jump on it real quick. People forget that Gomez and Van Dijk had an outstanding partnership for a period when we were, seeing our success. That was the top Premier League partnership. He was keeping Matip out at one point, and Matip was playing outstandingly at that time as well. And there were times where, whisper it quietly, Gomez outperformed Van Dijk in some of those games. So I'm not so concerned about goal. I've always felt he was a centre back. I just think he wasn't so strong in the air. I think he has to play centre back. And I think we get to what Colin was saying, we get at least 50 to 60 minutes out of Robertson. But beyond that, we will have to make changes. And it may well be that you see Gomez start at centre back and then maybe potentially see the game out in that left back position, preferably when we're in the lead and we're just trying to solidify things and we're bringing on Endo to shore it up in the middle, and then play, Gomez there and just have that solid back line just to see the game through. That's what I would love to see in an ideal world. I think going forwards, it may be an opportunity to see the like of Owen Beck, maybe getting one or two performances, maybe starting off in the cup game, perhaps, just to give us that breathing space because of the amount of games that are going to be coming up. And this is the thing that I think makes Liverpool not always get the credit that we deserve. The fact that someone gets injured and it's almost like they're not missed, because whoever comes in does such a good job that people forget that we have injuries. They forget that, there are first team or critical players out of the squad just because we just keep our level near enough the same, whoever comes in. So I'm confident that the right decision will be made. It's just the fact that it's City. And if you get City at their best, it's a problem. But if you get the City that we've been seeing for the last 5 games, and I seriously think there's something going on in that dressing room. I mean, you look at Guardiola coming into that interview at the end of the game, he looked like he probably got into some kind of altercation with one of his players. The marks on his head, the cut on his nose. I think he's gone in on someone and they've reacted and they probably had to be pulled apart. So I think there's problems at City, and we've just got to make sure that we put in our performance and just let them implode and just capitalize on this opportunity. So I think the less destabilization in our back line, the better. And then once you're in a position of advantage, perhaps then we can not necessarily experiment, but do things that allows us to manage the situation a bit better.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah, a few people pointing out that Beck is obviously out on loan. I think maybe that's one for next season. And listen, he's out on loan at a very good team as well. They beat Leeds today, actually, Blackburn, didn't they? Because nearly put Leeds in Miyaka. Glad it didn't. Thank you for pointing that out. And this is one of my old podcast buddies as well as Daz. So hello, Daz. And I hope all is going very, very well with you. It's always a pleasure to see you in the comments. Hope all is well, dude. Listen, let's talk about the midfield. Manchester City have only triumphed in just 2 of the last 27 league visits to Anfield. And that's a pretty astonishing stat, isn't it? Obviously, City, they've really, what's been really interesting in it is Phil Foden was saying, the pressure's on Liverpool because City haven't started well. So therefore the pressure's on Liverpool. And obviously this game is trying to flip all of the pressure on Liverpool. Mikel Arteta, I thought really helpfully said, oh, it's good to be playing well, but you have to maintain it, for 10 months. Like, yes, Mikel, why are you talking to us about winning Premier League titles? We know how to do it. We know how it's done. I thought that was quite cheeky. But again, everyone's trying to exert pressure on Liverpool. And for me, I'd never had seen that, seen that coming at all. So, Rico, this midfield now, something that Liverpool fans completely detested last year, absolutely detested last year. And we need a midfielder, and we need this player, and we need this player, and we need Zubimendi. So that's probably our strongest area, in that midfield. And, it's funny that Phil Foden said, who plays in the Manchester City midfield without Rodri, that, the pressure's actually on Liverpool to win tomorrow, even though we could go 11 points clear. Again, funnily enough, just going to throw in another stat here. City have never, ever won the league once they've gone more than 10 points behind. So, the pressure surely is on City, right? But anyway, that Liverpool midfield, just how impressed are you with the likes of Gravenberch, Jones, McAllister, Szoboszlai? Elliott's now just coming back in as well. It's not a midfield 3 for Liverpool. We always used to say this with the front 4, the front 5, the front 6 for Liverpool. Well, now actually we've got that midfield. And it's not just 3 in midfield. There's a potential 5 in there. 6 with Endo. I think Stitch has made a good point. I love seeing Endo come on to see out a game. Gives me proper James Milner vibes. I'm like, yes, bring him on. Like, let's do it. Get him on the pitch with his gum shield and let him run around like a madman with those cheeky little fouls. But how impressed are you with those midfield displays so far?
Absolutely impressed. Obviously, the big one that surprised pretty much everyone is just how great Ryan Gravenberch has been. That's been a revelation. He possibly the biggest piece in our midfield, to be quite honest. We don't have a ready-made replacement for him that can kind of step in. And I refer to him as an octopus. He's just all over the place, long-limbed, skilled, and just what a baller. But McAllister, I don't think gets enough credit as he should. Obviously came up with a huge goal against Madrid midweek. But he doesn't. I don't think he gets the same level of shine that he should. But that's to come. But the one I'm super happy about and super geeked up about is that bad man himself, Curtis Jones. I'm absolutely made up for him. It's been a few years of frustration. Stop start. He's on a run, gets nicked up, gets a red card, undeservedly, etc. Whatever the case might be, he's been pretty much snake bitten his entire senior career. But I think finally it might all be coming into place for him. And I'm just absolutely made up for it. That drive, that picking up the ball from almost outside the 18-yard box, taking on 3 defenders, one of them being Modric, absolutely rinsed them. And driving, Kamavinga pulls up lame. That was just, and he set up McAllister, what should have been the 2-0 decider at that point. This midfield it's doing the work. It's not that midfield we were used to under Jurgen, where it's not as skilled, but hard effort, hard running, and tough fouling, etc. This midfield is absolutely skilled and does all those small nitty-gritty things as well. So Szoboszlai, I think, us as a fan base are a little bit frustrated with him. Obviously, he does all the hard running, is pressing monster, etc. But, at least in my opinion, I feel like he falters a little too much on the attacking side, misplacing balls, killing killing momentum sometimes, but hopefully he's snapping into it, especially with Curtis Jones kind of pushing him down to the bench. Hopefully that sparks him up a little bit. And tangentially, just thinking about that defense as well, could we possibly see Szoboszlai on as a right back? Just to kind of, you know, we need a little bit of assistance there, because again, I don't think Trent can go the full 90. If we shift Gomez over there, then we have to pull in Kwanzaa at center back. So I'm not sure, but yeah, midfield has been great. I still think we need one more, and again, it's kind of proofing ourselves against a Gravenberch injury, and that would be, I'd still go after Zubamendi in January. Again, that fee, the release clause isn't astronomical, and I think he's seen now, if he had any doubts about joining in the summer, he's seen now a team in first place in the biggest competitions in the world, playing the style of ball that we do. I absolutely think a lot of the best ballers in the world would probably love to join us. And again, it just comes down to that aspect of it. But yeah, I'm just super, super excited about our team, and midfield in particular has been the bedrock that drives a lot of what we do. So yeah, just outstanding. Much better than the past 2 seasons or 3 seasons. I know we were used to Jurgen just playing 3 guys the entire time, but to be fair, he also had a bunch of guys who were injured all the time, so you couldn't really sub those guys out. But there might be some causality between his style and those injuries. But yeah, we're in good shape now.
Yeah, it does seem it. Apart from if you're Diogo Jota, who just picks up like freak injuries, no matter what a manager you play for, you know, just absolutely shocking injuries that seem to take you out for numerous weeks and months. So I do think the style of play definitely suits the likes of Konate better. I know that obviously Endrick gave him a kick, but again, that's an impact injury. It's slightly different than, you know, the muscle pulls that he was getting as well. So it does seem that causation might have been a factor. I thought that Paul made a good comment in here. So Dom or Jones tomorrow. For me, I think Curtis Jones. Anyone else disagree? Just very quick.
No, it's got to be Jones. Got to be Jones.
Yeah, I think
so. Just on Rigo's point about right back, I don't think I want to see Szoboszlai in the right back position, but Endo has been known to fill in that role in the past. I think that's a more likely shout than seeing Szoboszlai there. I don't want to see that either, but you know, needs must, I guess, and we'll do what we need to do.
Yeah, and like I say, talking about that midfield, Harvey Elliott, there's lots of comments in there as well that I've pulled up. I do think that Harvey will start getting some games. He looked electric in pre-season. I think Zobo needs that competition, if I'm honest. One player, Colin, for me was Alexis McAllister. Absolutely played his socks off against Madrid, and he had come under a little bit of scrutiny as well, because it wasn't the Mac that we saw last season, where at times he was the best player on the pitch, especially in a Liverpool shirt. You know, he came back obviously after the international break. He started on the bench. I always do think with, you know, the travel time, you have to let those lads of the Diaz, the Nunez, obviously he can start on the bench, and McAllister, I think you do have to let those sorts of players who do travel back late, it takes them a lot longer. If you can bring them off the bench and start them the game afterwards, you do see a completely different player. McAllister, for me, was absolutely phenomenal against Real Madrid. And in a world where we are praising Jones and Gravenberch, I thought McAllister was absolutely phenomenal as well. He looked like he was back to his best almost. And yeah, it's going to be exciting. Do you think that's where the game will be decided? And again, it's such fine margins, but is it in that midfield that the game's going to be decided tomorrow?
It will. It absolutely will. I think the 3 to start, especially pick themselves. You know, we talked a little bit about form when it comes to the goalkeeper. I think the form that the 3 of them are in at the moment, and the kind of rhythm that they're playing with, is incredibly difficult to game plan against. You know, prior to the game, but as well, it's impossible to play against. They have such a balance of, you know, technicality and skill and athleticism, and a determination to work hard too. They're, you know, Rigo and I when we were in the group watching the Real Madrid game, there was a turn that Gravenberch made where the both of us, we were set on fire by the turn. Based on what I have seen from, I would assume that Ilkay Gundogan is going to be playing. He's got no legs. He's got no legs left. He cannot move with any consistency, especially without the ball. I think he's quite bad without the ball, in fact. And I really expect that midfield three to work them incredibly hard in the first half, and to see the fruits of that labor in the second, or later in the first half into the second half. I think that's where we really start to grind people down, is because the midfield is so hard to play against. I expect a lot out of them, and they've been an absolute joy to watch.
And I think when it comes to Manchester City, obviously Kovacic wasn't involved for Feyenoord. He would actually be one who I think could make a big difference, because he does have the legs and he does have that positioning to know where to go in midfield. I do think it's going to be a really interesting lineup for Manchester City. I think the Liverpool squad could more or less pick itself, apart from the defence that we said. But that Manchester City midfield is going to be really interesting tomorrow. Because there's so many options they can do. But with Doku out, does Foden play further up, and then De Bruyne, Silva, Gundogan? It's really interesting, I think, and you will find holes if it is going to be those three. Bernardo Silva, he's an absolute magician. He can work his socks off, but he'll work his socks off. There'll still be holes behind, because, like you say, the likes of Gundogan and De Bruyne to some extent doesn't cover those holes. So it's going to be so interesting. And Kovacic struggled to go in for Rodri, but even he couldn't do it. And if someone like Kovacic can't do it, I can't see the likes of Foden, De Bruyne, Silva, Gundogan doing it either. So it's going to be really such an intriguing match. Let's talk about the attack then, Stitches, because Manchester City have conceded 2 or more goals in 6 successive fixtures in all competitions for the first time since 1963. This is Pep Guardiola's City. This isn't the City of old who used to get bashed every single week. This is Pep Guardiola's Manchester City. Again, it's unbelievable how many goals they're leaking and how many goals they're conceding. A lot of it does come down to Rodri. He joined in 2019-2020. City had lost 10 of 28 Premier League games without him. So they've only played 28 league games without him. They've lost 10 of them. He is such a cog in that Manchester City machine. Flip that around, Mohamed Salah, too short of being the 8th player to score 100 Premier League home games. Could happen tomorrow, as long as he gets his pens on target. And Salah has scored 11 goals against Pep Guardiola's City, the most of any player. He's going to be salivating, especially after that penalty miss as well. That Liverpool attack against that Manchester City backline, where you have got Lewis in there, Rico Lewis, who I like him going forward. Don't think he's defensive minded. I don't think he's all that defensively. We obviously know Stones was out as well. So again, I really rate John Stones, but for him to be out too, Rigo said Vardiol hasn't been the same since Middlesbrough/Liverpool's Ben Doak turned him inside out as well. So, it's going to be really interesting, that attack versus defense as well, isn't it?
Definitely. And I think what you've got is a attacking machine that is, if not in full flow, is extremely confident right now. Salah, new lease of life. Whatever the reason behind it, he's got a hunger, he's got a determination right now. He's more efficient. He might not be as involved in the game as he has been in the past, but you're guaranteed that there's going to be 1 or 2 critical moments in the game, and Salah's going to make something happen. His creativity, as alongside his goal scoring ability, is going to be a threat all game. And I'm intrigued to see how City handle that. I know Guardiola's going to play in the wide areas, and I just don't see how they're going to be able to cope with what we have to do. I think the midfield battle is going to be interesting. And Bernardo Silva always raises his game to another. He's got a personal crusade against us, and I respect his craft, but I hate him. I completely hate him. You know, and I just every time he plays Liverpool, he's just a constant threat. So I think he's going to be a problem. He hasn't been in good form, but I guarantee he's going to be raising his game for us. But I feel like, you know, we'll be able to handle that. I think whether we play Gakpo or Diaz, there's going to be, you know, problems in terms of their intelligent running, the movement off the ball. And I really want us to play Núñez. I really want us to play Núñez because I think he's a force of nature in games like this. His passion, his energy, his press. I know people are going to say he's a centre forward. We want him for his goals, but I think what he does is if he's a foil for the other forwards to play off, and he occupies the centre backs so much so that there are, you know, spaces created for the other attackers. And with the likes of McAllister there and Gravenberch with his creative passing now that we're seeing more and more of, and Jones just metronomically just ticking away, picking the passes. I just think we're going to cause them so many problems. So many problems. If you're telling me they're conceding 2 goals a game, I think, you know, the likelihoods we're going to see those 2 goals. And the question is whether our makeshift defensive position is going to be able to, you know, keep them out. That's what the thing is. And, you know, the transition, the gaps that they used to find during transitions in the way that we used to play on the clock, I think they're going to find that there's less of those opportunities. They're actually going to have to, you know, try and maintain the ball and break us down. And I'm not sure that, you know, they're going to be able to do that. It's intriguing. There's so many intriguing factors. The one area of our team that I'm completely relaxed and confident about actually is our attacking play. And I think, you know, coming into that game at Anfield with the Liverpool fans roaring the team on, you know, someone's going to put in a big tackle and then the crowd's going to be up again. And I think we'll find ways through, definitely, for sure, with our attacking options. And then, you know, again, later on in the game, we've got the options off the bench of, you know, Chiesa, who's back in full training, I understand. You've got Elliot, who's been, you know, on the bench, chomping at the bit to get on, and there's options to be brought on. So everyone's got to be on their toes now because your position in the team is not guaranteed. The fact that we've got so many games coming up over the next few weeks means you've got to perform when you get your opportunity because there's someone waiting on the wings to get their opportunity. So I just think it's great. It's going to be interesting to see the matchup between the 2 managers. We know Slot is able to impact the game with his tactical tweaks, and it'll be interesting to see what he does in terms of that attacking lineup, because we've seen when we played, I think it was Inter Milan, he made a tweak and put Diaz down the middle, just to cause them a different type of problem. It was Leverkusen. You know, he made that tweak. So, you know, he's smart about what he does, and it's whether Pep is going to be able to come up with something to stop us, and I don't think he will.
What I have thought is that in that Phil Foden interview, I did watch it and listen to it. Somebody said to him, like, what is it, you know, that is going wrong? And he actually pointed to the second half performances that Manchester City have been going through. And they say, like, they just almost like they don't give up, but they're just not as focused and they're just not as switched on. And that's what it feels like in their second half performances. You just have to see the one against, you know, the game against Feyenoord when they're 3-0 up and they, you know, Feyenoord Istanbul'd it. So it's one of those that, for me, I would start Gakpo on the left, Núñez running at those centre-backs, getting them absolutely worn out, and Salah doing just what Salah does against Rico Lewis, who is really going to struggle. I generally think Rico Lewis will struggle against Mohamed Salah tomorrow. And then I would bring on Diaz at 60 minutes. And if Núñez gets in the book again, I'm fine for Diaz to go straight down the middle again and do what Núñez did. If not, I probably would take off Gakpo. He can run at Walker, because when you're replacing energy with energy against the Manchester City team who struggled in the second half, why on earth wouldn't you do that? You know, I think Diaz is a little bit more electric. I think him coming off the bench and giving a 60-minute performance in 30 minutes, you know, with all of that energy, I think that would be better than perhaps the other way around. But listen, I think whoever starts, really, I don't think it matters too much as long as you've got the option of Gakpo or Diaz coming off the bench. As long as you don't play Salah through the middle. I think Jurgen tried it a few times, and for me, you know, Salah just loses the effectiveness, Colin, when he's out on the right. You don't play him in the middle. He's always better cutting in. We saw it against Madrid. We've seen it a lot this season. You know, him cutting in on that left boot is far better than him playing down the middle, because the right centre back of their team just knows, okay, I'll just hold because he's going to cut in on that left, where he is so dangerous and where he is so potent and deadly. Diaz, Gakpo, Núñez, Salah, any thoughts, Colin, before we go on to our predictions? And again, lads, if you want to jump in, Rigo, Stitches, if you want to jump in, please feel free.
Yeah, I got some thoughts on that, but Colin, go right ahead.
I think Salah and Núñez pick themselves. I think then it's a really good problem to be having, that I almost don't feel like there's a right answer at the left wing in a good way. I don't think either of them are playing poor. I think both of them are playing really, really well. And I don't think either person to pick to start is the wrong answer.
I think something, Rigo, before we go on to you, like, I think something to think about is, like I've just mentioned, maybe not think about who's going to start, but who's going to finish. Who finishes that game and create the most impact? Maybe that's something we could look at. But go ahead, Rigo.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement with actually your lineup, Richie. I one of the rare times I'd actually choose Gakpo over Lucho Diaz. I think for tomorrow's matchup, his size, I think, is an advantage for us, and also his crossing has been pretty incredible these past couple of weeks. I think between him and Salah, I think they can find Núñez there in the middle consistently. Salah is the only Liverpool player who looks for Núñez on a regular basis. I feel like a lot of times he's making a run and these guys just don't lay the ball out for him. But Salah does have that confidence to play Darwin in, and Darwin in turn obviously always looks for Mo. Darwin is the top assist getter for Mohamed Salah, and that's in just 3 seasons. So that tells you something there. I'd actually would start Cody. He's scored against Madrid, beautiful header. I think him taking, beating Walker physically, because the size advantage there, and having to worry Walker throughout that first 60 minutes, and then, as you mentioned, bringing Luis Diaz either for Gakpo, or if Darwin has a card or isn't being as effective, we can see, as Stitches said, the lineup against Bayer Leverkusen, where Diaz was right down the middle and did score a hat trick. Obviously, we would have better options if everyone was healthy, more adaptability, but I think for tomorrow's case, Gakpo, Núñez, and Salah would give them a lot of trouble, and hopefully we're up a couple of goals so we can then make some smart substitutions looking at the next couple of matches for this week. But first things first, get those 3 points.
I know it's a massive 3 points, and listen, I don't even want to entertain the fact that Liverpool could go 11 points clear, etc., because everyone should know the league is not won in December, but obviously by the time it plays tomorrow, oh my gosh, December tomorrow. I hope you got your advent calendars anyway, lads, by the way. Hope you've got those already. It's come around a long time. I despise putting up the decorations, but I did have to do it today because there's no chance in hell I'm going to be doing it tomorrow. But yeah, listen, there's no way that any Liverpool fan is counting their blessings, even though only once has a team had an 11-point lead after 13 games, and that was Manchester United in their 93-94 season, and they did go on to win the title. Obviously, that 11-point gap won't now be 11 because Arsenal won. Chelsea might win tomorrow, but so it's only 11 over City rather than the rest of the pack as well. But again, it's such a... If Liverpool do win tomorrow, that 11 gap over City, we've seen it happen before where Liverpool did go on to win the title. City sort of like just drop off. They'll focus on the Champions League, perhaps. I don't think Arsenal will, and I certainly don't think Chelsea will, because Chelsea in the Conference League don't really have anything else to play for, do they? I just think it's massive. That's such a big, significant gap between Liverpool and City. And let's hope for fingers crossed tomorrow. Right, let's go. Colin, Stitches, Riga. Go on, Stitch, go on.
I was just going to say, and I think the fact that if you look at the commentary and the punditry around this, it's actually very, very interesting. Let's take G. Neville. as an example. All season he's written us off. All season he's refused to count us in the title race. He's played up Arsenal, he's played up Chelsea, he's played up United, he's played up City. But then going into this weekend, his whole tune has changed. Now he's making us favourites for this match. Now he's talking about, you know, it's going to be embarrassing for City. And I just see the switcheroo. I see the way that they're trying to put pressure on us. Because up till now, we hadn't played anyone, apparently. You know, and, you know, Real Madrid were poor. It wasn't that Liverpool beat them and made them look bad. It was Real Madrid was poor. It was Leverkusen was poor. It was Inter were poor. It's never, they just don't want to give us the credit. So I'm like, you know what? It's fine. Yeah, we live for this. Let's go out there and absolutely destroy City tomorrow. Put that flag in the ground. Let them know that the throne has been handed back to its rightful owners, and we've done it without cheating 115 times. You know, and I just need us. I need us to absolutely destroy City tomorrow. I do. And with that in mind, I don't want to steal your thunder, but I know you were about to ask us for predictions. I'm going 3-0 to Liverpool.
Nice.
That's what I'm
saying.
Like
it. That's a very dominant display, a very confident one as well. And to be fair, I will pull up some of the comments as well, because people have been putting their predictions in there too. We've had a 4-0 from Bob, which again, you know, is if it ends at 4-0 tomorrow, I think I might throw myself in a river and go for it, because I'd have to go, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. Not in a bad way. 1-1 for Jay. He's gone 1-1. Rigo's gone for. I thought that was a prediction for Foden to score an own goal. Colin, what are your predictions then? And everyone else, please do put it in the chat. We've got over 4,000 of you joining us as we wind down here. But this is the best bit. This is where we can see how expectant we all are. Before we go to Colin, Derek's gone 3-1 Liverpool. I think I saw one further up as well, which was 3-1 too.
I've been watching a lot of coverage from a lot of different places, and to build on what Stitches was saying and kind of the same idea of it. I was watching The Athletic and John McKenzie, who did a breakdown video of Liverpool. I think it came out like a week and a half ago, so it's not incredibly recent, but where he basically was like, yeah, I don't think Liverpool are very good. I think they've gotten lucky, and I think that basically that their success has come down to being lucky. I could not disagree anymore. For someone who I generally agree with so often, I think City are desperate for a result, and I think when you get desperate, I think you get sloppy, and you get overstretched. And you miss assignments, defensive assignments, especially. We see this in tons of sports. When you get desperate, you're thinking about making a play rather than being in the right position or trying to overextend yourself. And I think Liverpool win 3-1. I think we batter them up and down the pitch. I think they're a little too desperate for a result, and I think because of that, and it's a really dangerous position for them to be in, because you when you're in positions like that and you've lost so many games in a row or played so poorly for their standards so many games in a row, it feels like there's almost no other way to get out of that rut, rather than to be really over anxious about playing the game and getting the win, and I think that causes teams to really break down. I think Liverpool battle them.
City would be the first Premier League champion to lose 4 successive games the following season. And they say the pressure's on us. First ever. Although, to be fair, if it is a draw or a City win, City have clawed back deficits of 8 to 10 points to win the Premier League on 6 occasions. So you know there are still omens and there are still things out there which still makes, I think, tomorrow such an intriguing tie. I genuinely can't wait for it. Rigo, I saw you had put in, I'm just scrolling up to the comments, I did see it, you went 3-1, didn't you, dude?
I went 2-0 actually.
2-0, sorry.
Yep, 2-0. I think again,
I found it.
I'm in love. I'm in love with clean sheets. So keep those sheets clean, and I'll be more than happy. I think probably both in the second half. To be quite honest, I think that first half and what we've seen so far from this Liverpool team is first half we kind of see where we're at. Dominate for the most part, most of the matches, but we find our breakthrough typically in the second half. I can kind of see that playing out once again, much like we did with Real Madrid at midweek. I think we can score one quickly right after the break, and then be a little nervous, and then put the final nail in the coffin at 2-0 around minute 70 to 80. That would be my prediction, and as long as we get 3 points, I really do not care. I don't know how many of you guys are fans of scary movies, but when the bad guy or the monster is on the ground, you drive a stake through his heart. You make sure you chop that head off. You don't give him a chance to come back. Let it be their long lost brother coming back for vengeance. But that particular monster you put to ground, and hopefully that's what we do tomorrow. If we do that tomorrow and we come out victors, then you'll see the whole shift from the media. And again, as you guys alluded to there, it's already starting this weekend with Gary and company. They're going to start saying, oh, can Liverpool keep up? Can Liverpool keep up? Will they crumble under the pressure? We saw it with Arsenal. We're not Arsenal, guys. And Arsenal keeps trying to compare themselves to us, and their fans keep trying to compare themselves to us. Stay in your lane, guys. All right? Stay in your lane. Be happy with Set Piece FC. Be happy with your style of play. Leave us alone. We're nothing alike. Leave it at that. But, yeah, you chop the head off tomorrow, and I think City start focusing in other areas, and I think other teams in the league will see us as the eventual champions. So, yeah, 2-0. Let's go.
Yeah, and Jay's just alluded to what I said earlier as well. Like at it again, like Arteta was playing West Ham. Why on earth he felt the need to comment on Slot having to maintain it over 10 months? I'd heed your own advice, Mikel, because you definitely didn't do that. So yeah, as Rigo says, stay in your lane and let's not mix teams just quite yet. Anyway, until you're quite level with us. For me, if Rigo's gone 2-0, then I fancied a 2-0 actually. I think it's a Slot scoreline, but I will go 2-1 just to make things exciting. So 2-1 to Liverpool. And, listen, it's such a massive game. I do think Arsenal have turned the screw a little bit in terms of making us win tomorrow. I do imagine that Chelsea will also win tomorrow as well. And let's not forget Brighton as well, because they've been absolutely storming it as well. So Liverpool do have a lot to do, and hoping that we can carry it on. It's such a big game. One thing that I will say, I moaned about this about 6 weeks ago. I think I went on a rant about the atmosphere at Anfield being not as good as what it should be. I said, I think 2 weeks ago, I was at the Villa game, and it was brilliant. It was a really good night, really, really good, 8 o'clock. That atmosphere, as you'd expect against Real Madrid, absolutely phenomenal again, and I love to quote, I think it was the Anfield Rap, maybe, who said it, that Liverpool FC and Anfield isn't a choir. It's reactive, and it's there when the players need it. It's there when otherwise it doesn't have the impact if it's like that over 90 minutes, and it is reactive. We need that Anfield atmosphere tomorrow. So if any of you 4,258 people are going to that game tomorrow, please be as loud as you can. I know that Rigo, that Stitches, that Colin, like so many of our lads and our streamers, sing their hearts off and shout until their throats get dry. I know I certainly did against Villa. That's what we need tomorrow, because Anfield rocking will rock Manchester City, and we can make all the comments about the empty head and then not being used to it. It's not necessarily always about the opposition. It's what that power and empowers those Liverpool players as well. So please shout, scream, kick, dance, sing, because tomorrow, Anfield needs to be electric as well. It is a nuclear reactor. That's a really good place to look at it. It is the 12th man, as Jay said as well. And as Rigo said in the comment, it definitely did mess up Madrid. So we need that 12th man. All right.
We absolutely do. And another reason that I think we do is we have to make it as uncomfortable for the referee as possible. Because if you look at the lineup of referees for this game, who all hail from Manchester, there's so much potential for skullduggery to go on. I know when the David Coots thing happened, people said, "Oh, Liverpool are going to get all the decisions." But what I'm seeing actually is a doubling down. I'm seeing a doubling down, and I need the fans, whoever's listening to this stream, please don't make me go on my hands and knees, but please just create such an atmosphere tomorrow that the referee can't do anything but give the right decisions. Because the last thing I want to be doing when I'm talking about this game after the match is being pissed off because a refereeing decision has cost us. I just don't want that situation. And the possibility of it has been heightened by the selection of officials for this game, in my opinion. But hey, the PGMOL has been at this all season. They're doing everything they can to hamstring us, in my opinion. And we can get into conversations about corruption or whatever. That's another thing. But we just have to win despite all of that tomorrow. And I think the fans are going to play a major, major part in us being able to, maybe if there's a setback in the game, for us to be able to go again. The fans are going to be the catalyst to that happening. So please, let's get that atmosphere going. Definitely.
Yeah. Do yourself proud, do Anfield proud, do Liverpool proud. And just enjoy it when you're there as well. Because I know all of us watching will be screaming at the telly, hopefully not throwing bricks at it, but hopefully we'll be screaming at the telly and, popping the Christmas crackers and maybe a Bucks fizz or two early as well. Thank you all so much for joining us. It's been an amazing stream. I've really enjoyed it, actually. I think I've had 3 great guests, been absolutely blessed. And along with all of your comments as well, keeping us going. So thank you so much for that. It's a massive game tomorrow, and Slots Penitentiary is going to add another inmate to the asylum, I'm pretty sure of it. So here's to tomorrow. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I think this is a nice one, actually, to end from Deck as well. He's not bothered about his Christmas presents. Let's just give him his 3 points tomorrow. All right. So thank you very much. And lovely to see you all. As always, up the Reds.